What a difference, huh? So I'm almost done. I'm going to take a Sawzall to one of these spireas. It just looks much larger than the other ones. And then I am going to call it a day. I've left pretty much everything that would be in the shade of that big bush back there. There's some mayapple, there are some jack in the pulpit, and they seem to do well in the spring. So I'm going to leave everything kind of around that there, but everything else I kind of pulled out. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but yeah, I'm just going to go right now and cut these spirea, or 2 of them, in half, and then pull those out, and we should be good for the next stage. So crazy here. So I just finished and I am going to call it done. That was a lot of work. Anyways, first things first. I'm gonna show you this really pretty bouquet I picked from all the flowers that are blooming down in the garden. We've got phlox and some black-eyed Susan. I believe that's what they are. There's still lupin, there's bee balm. Gosh, there's some lilies. All sorts of fun stuff. Some goldenrod that hasn't really opened up, but anyways, isn't that such a cute bouquet? I love all the colors. Okay, so this section here, I don't know if you remember the before, but it was a mess. And I just really wanted to kind of start over. There's a few things that I left. That one is the hydrangea. I did cut it back. It did have some blooms, but the blooms were super small, and really the whole thing was really scrawny because it was being suffocated by a mulberry tree that I also chopped down. And when I say tree, I mean it was literally an inch and a half around. Probably a sucker that never got pulled out. Yeah, I left a few spirea. I did take out an entire plant, and then I cut 2 of the other ones in half. There's that columbine that I'm just gonna leave. And then everything around the backside of that bush I left because there's some bloodroot, mayapple, some little like spring bulbs, and I can't remember. They look like grass, but then they have like little purple and white flowers that come up. Crocuses, I don't know what they are, but I left all of those, and even some wild geranium over there because they do well in the spring. That's shaded a little bit more towards the beginning of the year, so they do well, then they die back and you can't even tell that they're there. The rest of this stuff though I pretty much pulled. I did keep that spiral fern, although I don't really love ferns there because they are starting to burn. This side of the house is the southwest side, and it gets so much sun all day, every day. It gets super hot. So there's a lot of things that I pulled from here that just weren't doing well. I pulled almost all of the hostas because they were getting burnt. They were getting bleached. They didn't look good. They didn't look healthy. They were stunted and small. And I probably pulled about 30 from this area. I mean, it was just jam-packed with them. I have plenty of hostas all over the other parts of the property, and hostas are shade plants, and they just weren't doing well there. So I pulled a lot of those. I did pull some ostrich ferns that were there. I did leave one to see how it will do, but the other ones, again, just like the hostas, more of a shade plant. They can tolerate some sun heat, but not all day, every day. So they were getting burnt. They were stunted. They just didn't look their best. So I moved them from there as well. There was wild ginger everywhere. So I pulled a bunch of their roots. And what else was in there? There's a ton of weeds that were lining the driveway. So I kind of created like a little valley and brought all the dirt up this way towards the house, so that you know, our kids were stepping on them because they were so overgrown when we would get out of the car, because that's the edge of our driveway right there. So it just didn't make sense for things to be growing there. And like I said, it was a bunch of weeds, and just, you know, it was kind of scary at first. I think it was more scarier for other people because they're like, oh, why would you do this? It looks so good. Well, the reality is it just didn't look good. Everything was choking each other out. There was plants that shouldn't have been there because they're not full sun plants. Everything that I found in there, we have elsewhere on the property. So if I feel regret for having taken something out, I can always pull and pop it back in here. One thing though, so we go through the backside of our house. We rarely use the front door. And so that's where everybody comes through. So I want it to be welcoming, colorful, and there was just no color. There was nothing. There was the one hydrangea that had really pink flowers, but like I said, they were all small. Everything was competing for light. The shorter things were competing for light with the other things growing on top of them. They're competing for soil, for root space, and so out it came. My plan is to source some things from the garden that I really like. I know I'm going to bring up some black-eyed Susan, and I know I'm going to bring up some bee balm, and then I might buy a few things like hibiscus. I really like that. And then the hydrangeas here, so that will be some color. I might bring up some of the Siberian irises, maybe transfer some daffodils over here just to give it some life and some color. And then I'm just going to keep everything small. I like the border gardens that, you know, there's a variety of height and depth and color and texture and shades, and that they all have their own space. This was just on top of each other, and when I was pulling out the roots, I could tell it was like a ginger root on top of a spirea root on top of a whatever root, and so they were not living their best life. One thing that I did leave, and I think it's actually over here, and I think based on what I can tell, the mother plant died, but it had like little babies all around it, and I think it's a Japanese Kiara yellow rose bush, and it's really pretty, but you couldn't really see it last year because it was being shrouded out by the other things. So that's there, and then there's another bit of it somewhere else over here. But I'm really excited to give this new life. I am gonna mulch it. At first I thought, why would we mulch this? And then I realized that the clover here takes over in a matter of days, and the violet seeds. So I am going to mulch and keep that. I am going to mulch and keep most of this stuff is contained to its own little thing, so each thing can have its glory and shine, and keep out all the weeds. So that's the next step, and I'm getting really excited because it is finally coming to fruition. It's been about 2 weeks since I last filmed. 1 week we were super busy. The next week it rained all day, every day, and it was just a mud puddle, and I didn't want to mess with that. So here are all the roots that I have to pick up. And then in the fall, we'll probably trim that tree way, way back, and hopefully it'll get some more growth, but it's huge. It's probably 11 feet across and probably 4 feet high, so a little large. Yeah, I think it's 11 feet, and there's 2 of them. You can barely get through the side door right there, so that's gonna come way back, and then that will give a lot of those other little plants some room to grow a little bit taller. So yeah, that's the plan.